Awesome. We're live. Hey, everyone. Hope you're well. Thank you so much for joining. Today, I'm talking with Indiana Gregg, or Indy, who's absolutely awesome. And we've got to know each other a little bit the past month or two. She's founder and CEO of Wedo. And so it's an app for freelance, gig economy businesses, a payment business tool, all of that stuff. So super interesting. And we're going to be talking about future of work, maybe quiet quitting, maybe mouse jigglers. But let's see, it should be really interesting. Let me get her in. Hey, Indy.
Hi. Hey, how you doing, Lewis? Hi.
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm all fired up. I'm really looking forward to talking to you. I think you've got some weird things to talk about today, so this is going to be fun.
Thank you. We were just talking about, I asked you if you knew what a mouse jiggler was. I think you thought I said mouse gigolo.
I was like, like what is he on about? We've always got something new to talk about. We can have a really deep conversation about mouse gigolos. That does not sound good. I don't know if this is appropriate for LinkedIn. Is this LinkedIn?
We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, but it's a mouse jiggler. Let's talk about it quickly. It's quite interesting.
A mouse jiggler, like it's jiggling. Jiggle, like
yeah.
those wobbly heads.
It's like literally like, I think you get, I mean, I don't have one, but I think for £12 or something, you go on Amazon and it jiggles and you put your mouse on it and it makes your line manager or whoever think that you're still online when actually you've
it's a way to beat the time trackers.
Yes. Well, like, you know, the little green live thing on whatever chat thing you might be using.
That's like these people with like these big fleets of cars who put the little like GPS on the bottom of the car to see where their employees are. I don't know. Yeah. Does that pass GDPR? That won't work in the European Union. I'm just saying. Mouse jigglers will be out, like, you know, buy them fast, guys, because those are going to be outlawed, I'm sure.
Oh, it's a nice invention, but sad if you have to use one because you're probably not enjoying work so much, or you're not being trusted by your manager.
If you I don't get it. Hang on a minute. Who jiggles?
So basically, it's like this. So it jiggles the mouse.
It's you tricking the time tracker to make the line manager think you're working.
That's it.
It's not the company buying it to spy on you.
No. It's me. It's saying me, the employee.
Oh my God.
I want you to think that I'm still working. So and you're like, oh, Lewis is still online. Wow, he's working late. That's really cool.
Do most of the companies that you recruit for, do they kind of spy on their employees? Do you have any insight into that? Like, we were talking about this the other day, and people were like, oh, you know, we should just use timesheets and we should use time trackers and things like that. We were just having a talk about like other people, what other companies do. And I'm like, no, that's just stupid. That kind of defeats the entire purpose. Cause we do all of our people work when they want. We just give them OKRs and KPIs and say, okay, if you get that job done, go have a day off. Like if your job doesn't require that you're sitting at your desk, like talking to customers or something that really is where you need to be there, get your work done and do it really, really well. And we're super happy for it. Or you're like making, you don't have something else to do, take the time off. But yeah, time trackers there's something else.
I think most people, a lot of companies of a certain size that I know, they have some kind of login, like you log into your virtual desktop and they'll track when you've logged in. They'll have some way of knowing that you're online and that you've checked in, so to speak. If you're doing like an office-based job, if you're a factory worker or you're going into the office, obviously, there's a time requirement. But for jobs for office jobs, for me, it's about output, not time.
Yeah.
And if it takes you 1 hour, it takes me 10, will fool me to do the same thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. You hire a plumber, you've got a leak, and all you care about is him fixing it. So if he fixes it really quick and he charges you, but the other plumber spent hours because he works by the hour, like that's just not sensible, right? You want the leak fixed. Your kitchen's full of water or whatever, right? Your toilet's broken, right?
Yeah.
So I think in general, like for freelance jobs, you really want the quality of work over time. I think, I'm all for,
freelance stuff.
yeah, like I'm all for like projects, like you hire for a project, you know, like if it's
But
freelance, if it's an
yeah,
employee,
like for a gig.
yeah, yeah. Mouse jiggler is just gonna be like, yeah, wow.
But even if you've got an employee, like a permanent employee, you still want people to have great output. For me, I'd rather focus on output than time.
Yeah.
I don't care if someone works 10 hours or 2 hours, or as long as they're doing a great job, and my business, the clients are happy, the candidates are happy, and all of that stuff goes. I don't
Yeah.
mind. Or if I'm hiring a freelancer to do a project or piece of work, again, like you give them the project and they say, hey, it's going to take me X amount of time, and I'm like, great, go for it.
Yeah.
And
I
that's
think
all.
it's just measurables, isn't it? It's like
Yeah.
you're here this week. This is what you need to get done in this time frame. Is that reasonable? Yes or no? Yes, it's great. I can probably do more than that. Great, let's do more. You make that adjustment and then you set the scope of that particular project, whether it's a week or 2 months or 3 months, and then you make sure that there's constant progress being made, and then the person's working. I think a
Yeah.
mouse jiggler is just kind of really? Wow. Like,
Yeah.
so you can go walk the dogs, your mouse jiggles, and they're like, "Yeah, he's at his desk." It's like,
It's
"What?"
like, it's funny because
He answered the phone. Oh, poor broadband, right? What? Yeah.
it's weird. It's weird because I've never heard that term before, apart from last week. And then this quiet quitting term, I'd also not really heard. I mean, it's just it's something that popped up on Twitter, and it's suddenly taken hold. And I think people have been doing this like quiet quitting forever, right? Like, as in, like, I think quiet quitting means like doing the kind of what's required and no more. People have done that forever, and I think it's I know, for me, it's if you don't really enjoy the job, and you're like, you hate Monday and you're getting a mouse jiggler, it's probably time just to rethink
Your
what's going
career.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Tough
I
one.
get it. Yeah. I think there's like kind of a bad rap for these quiet quitters because I think I can't remember. It's one of these celebrities I saw on LinkedIn that it was on a television, broadcast, a news broadcast talking about quiet quitting last week or the week before. And he's like, um, if you leave at 5 o'clock and don't do anything else, then you're a quiet quitter. If all these kind of things. And so it's sort of like, well, why have working hours and then criticize people for leaving at 5 o'clock? It's a different, it depends on the contract. It depends on the relationship in the company, the hierarchy of the company. You can't expect people, who are answering the phone all day to be like, yeah, I'm going to stay till 8 o'clock and answer more phone calls. That's why you have shifts. So I don't get that. I think that there is something to be said about living to work rather than work to live. Unless you're doing something you love, then be a
Yes.
workaholic because it's your passion. I
Yeah.
have no
Yeah.
problem working until the wee hours in the morning and getting up and giving, okay, it's a new day, but it's something I love to do. And I think there's a
Yes.
big difference. You need to hire people who love what they're doing and create jobs that they love. And then you don't have to worry about them having mouse jigglers or even care about them. It's like,
I think
okay.
I completely agree. It's a lot, a lot of people talk about you got to find your passion and stuff, but it's really quite difficult to find something that you absolutely love that you do as a job.
Yeah, no, I agree entirely. It's hard, but, you know, I think that we need to create more of that for people
Yeah.
so that they have that absolute love.
Yeah. It's nice. It's good to strive for. It's good to keep keep looking, keep trying to find, because again, like, you enter the workforce, like, and when you're young, and I mean, you've got no idea. There's so many options and stuff, and you
Yeah.
always like, you kind of feel like, I think early on, that you should know what you want to do with the rest of your life early on, and you realize, you're working for, I don't know, 70 years, and they say you're going to have 3 careers in your life or something like that. I'm
Mhm.
already on my second, and yeah, it's fine to try stuff,
Yeah.
and see what you like and what you don't like, and move around and see where the journey takes you. I think it's
Yeah.
all right to do that.
I don't think it's unusual for people to have multiple careers. This kind of idea that you do the same thing or even work in the same verticals all your life is has kind of been made redundant because technology changes so quickly and so do shifts in markets. Like there's a lot of things that are completely obsolete. There aren't any jobs for that anymore. It's fully automated. Um, and so you may have started out being a line worker in a factory or being a, I don't know, a translator, and now you have Google Translate. Most companies aren't hiring as many translators. So what's your skill? Can you verbally express yourself? Is that, going to be possible?
Yes.
Now we have, you know, we have bots that can do that. They can actually express themselves. So there's a lot of, I mean, those are just two examples, but there's a lot of technology that's made redundant, and therefore you will be changing. And that in a way is exciting because it does create new opportunities. The more and more technology advances and changes and the way we work changes, the more opportunities to learn. And then you don't need the mouse jiggler because you're not bored as, without
Yeah.
using a swear word, you're not bored out of your gourd. No one, and I think
Yeah.
it's also okay to say that I need a break. I'm going to take 10 minutes and go walk the dog or have a coffee or whatever too. Right. I mean, yeah, it's,
Completely. Yeah, you've got to find, you've got to have a bit of balance, and it's, you're working for a long time, and you've got to be able to, I mean, it's so corny, but it's like a marathon, not a sprint. You need to be able to last and stay in the game, keep
yeah,
yourself healthy, not burn out, or like realize when you need to rest and take holiday and
yeah.
change stuff, and just kind of a little segue into like hybrid, remote, freelance, things like that. It's interesting that, and I know you've seen it, but more people are choosing to do gigs and freelance jobs versus
Mm.
this traditional employment. And maybe it's because also that, just to regain a little bit of structure and balance.
Yeah, I think you've got a little bit of both. So, for example, in America, and I know this is true in London and throughout the UK, about 44% of employed workers have a side hustle. And this is especially true and much higher percentages in the under 35s. Well, there are several reasons for that. Cost of living's rising. Um, they want to have more money to, to be able to maybe become a digital nomad in the future. Their entrepreneurship has been heavily promoted. It's very glamorized, so they get the
Yeah,
idea, well, I'll start a side hustle. That'll be a segue into maybe my own startup. They want to work on a second project. So they've got a side gig anyway. And then you've got this movement in the digital nomad space and the work from home space that was really solidified in during the pandemic. So it stands to reason that if your company won't allow them to work from home at least some part of their week or some part of their time, people are giving it, look, I could do all this and I did it for a year straight, right? At home, and I had a ton more time. I wasn't on a London bus or in the underground or waiting in a queue, or in a traffic jam or whatever that is, right? Traveling
yeah,
somewhere. Um, and and my whole routine set up because I had that opportunity to do that, right? That's what people are thinking in their minds, and
yeah,
it's totally true. So I mean, we've been working on it in the freelance and gig economy, working on this project for since October of 2019, and we really solidified it and started with a team in like May of 2020, and we watched everything unfold. Um, and it just came from my background, being a freelancer for so many years, being part of the gig economy as a musician, having started other platforms, and thinking, this has to change because the commissions are so high. So we just created this commission free zone, right? Like that's what We Do is all about. We don't charge a commission. We process your payments. We give you a bank account. We let you communicate and run your remote team or be a freelancer, both
yeah.
sides of the market, hire, employ people. And that's what the platform does. So, and that's why
Awesome.
I'm talking to you, Lewis, because this is your expertise. For recruiting, there'll be a massive pool of people who go, okay, I'll be a freelancer for a while because I haven't found the job of my dreams, but I'm making money doing this. But if they
Yeah,
find the job of their dreams, we've hired 30 freelancers, right, at our company. right? And they're like, well, I'll stay here because this is the job of my dreams. It's worth it to me, and then I don't need to go fishing for clients. So that steady job that you get freelancing is nearly like being employed in many ways.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So many things to cover there. So are you finding that some freelancers, they freelance until they find something that they really like in terms of the job and maybe the working kind of environment?
Absolutely. Yeah. If culturally you fit with that, that's a great place to recruit. And then I'm sure you do that too. As you see, okay, well, they're a freelancer. Maybe they're tired of this. It looks like they've been doing this a while. This could be a good fit for this person. And then you match them up with the company. And I think that's completely normal. One thing, you have the opportunity to work in diverse verticals and sectors and learn a lot as a freelancer. So it's almost like a self-training mechanism when unless you're planning to expand it into a bigger freelance, business, or maybe a design company or something like that, where you're going to collaborate with multiple freelancers and then pull it all together and become like a service-oriented company. But yeah,
I think freelancing is great. It's funny because over the last, I know, I mean, I've been recruiting for like 16 years and stuff, and it's always interesting because like doing freelance or gigs is great because you see like what other companies do. You have loads of different experiences and stuff. Then when they come to if they want a permanent job, then you find hiring managers historically have always had this thing in their mind of, they've been doing like contracting or gigs, it's been called like slightly different things over the years. Will they really stay? I'm not sure they're going to want to do a perm job. And so you have this bias, and it works both ways sometimes as well, against people that have just, done gigs for the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And also, if there's someone that's lost their permanent job and someone's hiring for a gig or a contract, the same thing happens. Well, what happens when a permanent job comes up? So I think there's these biases that need to just stop now, because there's value for.
Yeah, like think about it, right? I think it's a time thing. If you've been a freelancer for a while, what have you got? Probably you probably got grit. If you've worked with a lot of clients, you probably got patience. And the third thing that you probably have is a sense of entrepreneurship and a sense of responsibility or autonomy, right? So you're dipping into people who've become autonomous and been able to support themselves. So there's an independence factor. Now that can be a really great thing as an employee, or a really not so great thing as an employee. It's a great move to hire someone who's acted as if they're an entrepreneur in your upper management or your C-suite, because it's like, oh, this person is autonomous. If they've managed people or they've managed other freelancers and created their own little ecosystem, even better. It really depends. And I think each person, each candidate has their own set of baggage and their own set of skills and their own set of stuff. And I think it's more up to the recruiter and the company to define what you don't want and scare those people away, right? Like really narrow into like, what are we looking for here? What's our culture? How do they fit? And scare them away, because you don't want a gazillion applicants. You want the 5 that could be the perfect candidate for that particular post. If you're hiring for something that, upper management or whatever, obviously if it's a call center, you just want bums and seats on telephones or whatever, or on Zoom calls or whatever, people who can read a teleprompter and answer questions and be delightful as customer services people, right? Great attitudes, whatever, depends on the job, right? So,
I think
it's
no, you're right. Also, the other thing is if you're hiring and the job is, the candidates are in demand, right? So there's not many folks for your job. Then you should be really open to exploring people from different backgrounds or slightly different profiles than you might normally do. Because, I always find people hire for pedigree over potential. It's like, oh, they've worked in this firm, in that firm, they must be great. Of course, just because they've done the job before doesn't mean they're going to be any good at it again, or that they were good at. So I think when you're hiring,
it's the fur coat and no knickers syndrome, isn't it?
It's like It's always, I don't know, maybe it's safer to hire because you think you know them, or
Yeah.
they've worked at Microsoft and you're a tech firm and they're like, and you really love Microsoft and you're like, everyone from Microsoft is great.
Yeah.
So these kind of things are, they're just not true. And so you've got to be more open as a hiring manager and look for, love the cat, look for talent and think about what you can train and, what are the real skills that they have to offer and what do you really need to do well in the job that you're hiring for?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And then also I think attitude, I think highly competent is great. And you always want to have super smart people. Um, eh, eh, if you can get them, like people who are great, but the, I think attitude is so important. Work ethic is so important. Integrity is so important. It really depends on the company and the position again. But yeah, I don't get the pedigree over
You're right.
over
You've got,
you know.
to your point, I saw it. I can't remember who I saw the graph from. Someone had drawn a graph of like will and skill. And so if you think
Right.
of like quadrants, and you'd really, you want someone ideally high will, high skill, right? But you'd
Yeah.
rather high will, low skill
Mhm.
than high skill, low will.
Yeah.
Because you want this attitude. You want a really
Yeah.
positive.
Attitude's amazing. And also when you see if you've hired someone who didn't have the skills to begin with, but you see how they work and what they're improving, like if you can identify a talent that hasn't necessarily been skilled up, right? That's amazing. I mean, we have a gal that we hired the beginning of the year who knew nothing about some of the design software and some of this stuff, but she just has this eye. And I thought,
Yeah,
you know what? Take you a month to learn these programs, and you're just gonna fly. And so that's what we did. And honestly, you cannot tell the difference between her and some of the most experienced people that we have because she's worked so hard and she's just and it's beautiful to watch that because it's like you found something you really love and you're going
yeah,
for it. And and
yeah,
like you treated this as like a major opportunity and she's flying. She's just insane. And I think that's something that companies can do with people who are hungry and really want to, change their career path and are really passionate about doing that. And you can feel that when in an interview if you're like if you're tight with it and you
yeah.
say, okay, these are the type of people we want, this will fit in our culture. So I think there's something to be said about that too when you're interviewing people.
Yeah, I'm all for that. If someone's positive, they want to learn, they want to do well. They want to make something of themselves and of the work and stuff. It goes so far. Because again, like the skill stuff, you can train. And if you invest a
Yeah.
little bit of time, you'll find someone that people are not willing to give a chance to, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it brings incredible benefits. I love
Yeah.
that.
If you can tap into the hidden talent of your candidate, that's genius. Like that's the best thing to do because they might be applying for a job just because they want a job, but they may have this hidden talent that you can tap into and you go, hang on a minute. What do you may,
Yeah.
it's funny when you meet people, they're fickle, right? People who apply for jobs, they'll write whatever they think you want to hear, you know,
Well, I
and
had an interesting one on that point. I posted on LinkedIn. It was like quite a few, loads of comments. It was, I'd say a friend of mine. I'm obviously not going to mention who it is, but they'd hired someone, and I think it was a sales role that they hired them for,
Mhm.
and best performing person in the team. And then it turned out they'd lied on their CV,
Oh,
and they had like a degree when actually
yeah.
they never went to university and they didn't have a degree. And
Mm,
so my friend was like, "What should I do?
mm,
Like, should I get rid of them? Should I give them a chance? I keep them, but they lied to me." So that was super interesting because you can think of it in a few different
yeah,
ways, and a lot of the comments were around. It was interesting. Like there was two kind of type of two themes. It was a lot of people are like, well, really, like, do you need a degree
mm,
to do certain jobs? And maybe you should never have even specified it already. The
yeah,
other is like, this person has lied to you and the trust is gone.
yeah.
What
Yeah,
do you
that's a
think of?
tough one. That's a tough one because, university degrees serve one purpose in my mind. They train you up to learn and they teach you how to learn. And so that just proves that you have ability to learn. advanced concepts, more or less. And university was always this thing, oh, you need that so you can get a job, right? If you want to get a job in this field, you need a university degree because that's what,
Yeah.
now in the world of 2022, where so much information, valuable information, and that fast pace moving, I don't see that as just because you've got a diploma, it doesn't mean anything. And okay, if you look at the grades, if you look at someone's grades and you say, "Oh wow, you've worked hard," like you're showing a real strong work ethic to make the grade, fine. But then you're going in deeper and you're looking at their transcripts and what they took, what semester, how many credit hours they were doing, and blah blah blah, and
Yeah.
so I think experience weighs much further than a degree. Lying about it that's a tough one. It really depends how desperate was the person for that job.
Well, they said that, I mean, their response was, I've been knocked back from so many
Yeah,
jobs. I felt like I was desperate. I'm not earning money. And, they
yeah.
got to a point where clearly they felt that the only route for them was to lie.
Yeah, and I think, it's similar if you like the film Aladdin just sprung into mind when you said that. And it's like, do you chop off someone's hand because they're starving to death and they stole a piece of bread? Well, they were starving and no one gave them bread, or they were too humiliated to ask about, they don't want to beg. So when you get behind the psychology, and this is why judges, give lighter sentences depending on what the backstory is, because it's always true. If you're you're in a cornered situation, and if it is the same thing, you know,
Yeah.
making money is the way we eat in modern day life. So if you're that desperate, I would give them a second chance for sure. And then
Fair.
honestly, unless you can say you've never lied to, if you're a CEO or hiring somebody, and you can say I've never lied in my life about anything, or, to
It's
anybody, it's like, come on,
I think most people's CVs and resumes, there's probably a little bit of embellishment going on
Oh, you just look at
about.
people's LinkedIn profiles, Lewis. I mean, it's like, let's read through the cracks here. Like I, there's funny LinkedIn things. It's like, they've worked at Barclays, okay, and they were like maybe a teller or something at some point, and it's like, service to the blah blah blah. It's like you worked with the Queen or something. It's like I was there. I was in London one week and stood in front of Buckingham Palace and made a phone call. And therefore I worked at Buckingham Palace. Or it's stupid. People do
Yeah.
stupid stuff on. I don't
What do they
trust
say? What's the
profile.
thing? Never let the truth get in the way of a good story, or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I mean, look, like I think, yeah, I like your thing. I think lying's difficult there. I mean, because if you're the manager, it's hard to regain the trust. But I would certainly have a chat with them and really understand what it was and why
yeah.
and
If you
things
get
like that.
behind, if someone's that desperate, but the thing is, if they're that desperate after they performed, and did the job well, going back and saying, "Look, I feel bad about this. I actually lied on my CV because I was so desperate." Like,
If you
you
own
know,
it, yeah,
own it, own up on it, and don't let it just sit there. Because if
own it.
somebody,
There's this
yeah,
guy called Jacko Willink. He's like an American ex-army guy. He does these motivational like podcasts and stuff. He's great. He wrote this book called Extreme Ownership, which I listened to as an audiobook, and it's brilliant. And the concept is like take ownership. It's
yeah,
so powerful to be able to just own it. Whether you've made a mistake, whatever it is, just own it
yeah,
and come out in front of it and it works. It's super powerful.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I mean, one
the
way of
other
doing that would have been like, go to the interview. If you've lied on your CV and you know it, don't look someone in the eye and accept the job. Say, look, I've lied on my CV because I thought it's the only way to get in my foot in the door, but I want to let you know right now before you hire me.
yeah
That would have been
yeah
a good move, because I would have gone, oh, get it. Okay. We did put that as criteria and you actually have all this experience, and maybe I wouldn't have looked down the CV further or something like that. If it is
yeah
one of those situations, I don't
yeah
know.
yeah or you're like, hey, look, I know AI like does your first screening and it asks for a degree, so hey, like I wouldn't have got past your computer if
Yeah,
I had not
true.
put that. Now I'm seeing a human, let me tell you what I can do.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. um,
Yeah.
But with just kind of again like relating to like freelance gigs, doing your own thing, suddenly like you have much more control because we're talking about someone that's really wants to find an employed job, you know, like
Mm,
salary job.
yeah.
Now there's actually a lot of opportunity to be able to do these gigs, and I think it opens up your opportunities much more broadly now.
Yeah, theoretically, no one should be homeless or nobody should be in a situation where they can't eat if they have had a job before because there are so many companies that are hiring contractors first and then they move them into a full-time employed situation. I'm sure you're finding that too with your recruiting. And I think, recruiters are very very, very important in the ecosystem because small companies, medium-sized companies, and especially startups don't have time to go through that entire filtering process that you guys do. And that's where I think recruiting from a list of consultants and seeing if they are open to be hired as an employee is super important, or even as a test drive on a contract as a freelancer, you can help, you know,
Yeah,
from that point of view as well. I think
yeah,
that there's a lot of flexibility, and I think it's also very important if you are employed full time and you're thinking about being a freelancer that you don't just drop everything and just become a freelancer off the cuff. Do a side hustle for a while, feel
yeah,
it out,
yeah.
progress that way.
What is it? What's it actually? Just moving on. What's it like? Like to be a freelancer? Like, are there some? You know, it sounds super cool, right? Like, do a side hustle. You see on Instagram or whatever, TikTok. It's like, hey, I'm making like $1 million a month on my side hustle. You know, you see all the like rock star stories.
Yeah.
But when you get into it, like, what are the main challenges that someone should watch out for if they want to kind of pursue this type of work?
Yeah, I think there's several things. First of all, what is your basket of skills that you're offering? What's your proposition? What's your offer? How much are you charging? Figure that out and test it. You become a freelancer when you serve your first client. So you want to make sure that you're setting the right tone with the person that you're working with or the
Yeah,
company that you're serving. So let's say you've been hired and you're creating a logo or a website for a company. Let's just use that as an example. You're supplying a service. You really want to make it very clear what you're going to deliver in what time frame and on what terms, right? Very clear, and that needs to be in writing between you and that's agreed between you and your client, you know. And so what's it like is you're going to be investing that amount of time and keeping your commitment if you want to be able to build your reputation
yeah,
and grow a business out of that. And it's really like being a startup service entrepreneur more than anything. You're managing clients, you're managing expectations of those clients, and you're managing your time if it's a side hustle. Um,
yeah,
and you may invest a lot more time than you thought originally because you undersold yourself. So you really have to be realistic. Don't start somewhere that you don't know about.
yeah, yeah.
If you know it
So,
generally takes 40 hours to do a 20-page website, if you get all the copy up front and all of the images and everything, and the client's seen kind of a sketch of the UI and everything, and it turns out to be 2 months, you have to have a game plan of, well, if this goes over this time frame, then you need to pay me more, right? Because too
yeah.
many of them just want a gig and they're like, okay, and then
It's
you go
hard to
sit.
ask though, hey? It's like, oh, I'm really sorry. Actually, it's taking me another like 2 days, and would you mind paying me? And you know, it's the big difference, isn't it? A lot of the time, it's like, so if the website example is they're obviously good technically, like they know how to
Mhm.
do the job. Big
Yeah.
difference is finding work, like being a business, like working on your business. You know, like taking payment, finding work,
Yeah.
asking, you know, like
Yeah, you're doing
managing
all
this.
of that. Yeah, finding work is usually, your target is a new business because they need everything if you're in services, right? There's a really strong chance that if a company's under 6 months, 6 months old, right, that they're going to need something. So there's your database, right? Really
Yeah,
quickly. Most companies need that. Now, if you are more high level and you're like a mid level scale up coach or scale up this or whatever, or you're you're providing leads, then you know that it's going to be a middle, probably a company at least 3 to 5 years old that's going to need those things because they are up and running, and it's
Yeah. Yeah.
and figure out who you're targeting. But you've got a lot of other things to worry about. You got invoicing, expenses, keeping track of those expenses. Every freelancer should have their own bank account. You need a communication platform or system of managing those clients and where they're all in one place. And preferably, you don't want to give away a bunch of commissions to the man, right? Or to some platform. You want to
Is that
keep those for yourself,
like
right?
Upwork or what's the other
Like almost
is it
every freelance site on the planet, they're all taking massive chunks of your money. I mean, that's why we exist. We're commission free. We just process transactions. So we have a transaction fee and an interchange fee in your, we do bank account, but we provide all those services, the platform, the communication services, so that you can literally onboard your client on a video or audio call, make an agreement, sign them up, get it ready, send the contract, and automate that payment process. And you're 52 days less a year, working in admin when you should be working on your business or your
yeah,
product.
that's the thing. The admin is a lot more than one thing. It's like it's really important to use a platform like yours, get an accountant, whatever, like just
Yeah,
outsource this kind of stuff, because you want to focus on like winning work, delivering, getting repeat business.
exactly. And you're a one-man show most of the time when you're starting out. You don't have very much time. Time is the thing that you're selling, more or less.
Yes. Yeah. It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people struggle with early on. It's the, because they might not be like salesy or extrovert, or like it's not like a thing for them to go out and win work and sell. And a lot of the time that's the early struggle, isn't it, of actually like, where do I get work from?
Yeah, and I think, focusing on a portfolio or creating like a portfolio, which we offer on Wedo. When you set up your profile, there's a portfolio. We have a call and vet you and have a chat, and you have this kind of discoverability, so we solve part of that problem. But yeah, having enough kind of experience, it's similar to a resume. But you're pitching yourself like, here are all my skill sets. If you need this, or this, and then obviously anyone you've ever worked with that you can provide as a reference, who somebody can do a quick spot check on it. That's going to help too. If somebody's raving about how great you did, you built their app and it was just like seamless process, so amazing, one really like, then if you have someone raving about you, then that's going to help you win trust very quickly.
Definitely. I also think as well, it's worth remembering, if you want to build a portfolio career, and from all the stats I'm reading, more and more people are wanting to. I'm sure I've read a stat that over 50% of people are going to be in freelance work in the US in the next 3-4 years. I can't remember exactly. I thought I saw it on one of your posts.
Yeah, no, globally, 52% globally by 2027. Yeah.
So there's a lot of, it's crazy. So it's a good, people are opting for it. And I think one thing for me when I set my business up is you've got to be in something for a few minutes, to do well at it. Like a lot of people, they stop too soon, or they give up too soon. Or they think it's going to be easier than it actually is, because it's tough, right? You set up your own business and it's like, it's tough. Like, to your point, which is the problem that you're solving, paying clients, contracts, paperwork, all of that stuff, right? It's like a massive headache. So there's great platforms like yours. Finding work is tough, so stick at it, and then you can really build the kind of work life that you're hoping for.
Yeah, and the thing is, getting in front of people is really important. So, and in these communities, so we're building a community. It's really a community or social networking platform at the same time, because you can, if you drop in on a subject. Let's say I'm hiring right now and I'm looking for a copywriter, right? And I go on Wedo and there's a forum of people. There's a bunch of people on a live call like this discussing what are the key elements of copywriting. How do you how do you set the tone of voice, and how do you match that with the brand? And like they go through all this like how to's and stuff. And I'm sitting here as a company and I'm listening to maybe 15 people doing a live broadcast. I'm going to take notes of those names the next time I need a copywriter. Because if somebody says something brilliant and that's their thing, and I can feel that they're passionate about it, and I go and I look them up and I say, oh, their portfolio is brilliant. I love the way they voice that or whatever. Because everyone's style might not match every company. But if you're putting yourself out there, and I'm more likely to hire you, because that's how I find people,
Definitely.
And that's powerful. So just getting yourself out there, making it a habit of joining some of, what's going on, where your peers are talking, because a lot of people are afraid of that. They're like, oh, well, if I turn up there and all these people, they're different than me, that makes them better than me, blah, blah, blah. Everybody has a style, right?
Yeah.
And if you're one of the ones asking a really brilliant question, we're going to go look for you. We're going to, like, if we're listening in on those conversations. So putting yourself out there is really important, especially as a freelancer.
Yeah, no, definitely. And even if you're just trying to get ahead in your career and you're like networking, and I'm going to get another cheesy quote, but they say your network is your net worth.
Yeah, exactly.
So invest time in networking, and you can, I hear a lot of people that, oh no, I'm introvert and I'm not confident and stuff. You can go on LinkedIn, it's free, and you can like people's stuff that's relevant to your discipline. You can comment, you can just type something, press send, run away, come back a few minutes later, whatever. Then suddenly, like, I bet you, if someone starts liking all of your stuff, right, for like a few months, you're like, who's this person? And then they suddenly drop you a DM and they're like, hey, Indy, love to chat with you. You'll be like, oh, yes, oh my God, you're my biggest fan. Yeah, definitely love to chat with you. So it really, really works. And it's just a fabulous, something like LinkedIn, and there's other platforms too, obviously, but just fabulous opportunity now to use the technology and the social networks that we have to foster these relationships. And then you'll start to get the referrals and repeat business, and people will notice you. And you've got to invest time doing that now.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, instead of scrolling through, I think there's a lot of people in their off time. I see it all the time. You're on the train, you're on a bus, and it's like scroll, 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 and they're just entertaining themselves. If you flip that into a search profile and literally, commented, liked, you're putting yourself forward, because if you do that repeatedly, if you just set 100 targets or 150 targets where you've touched them 7 times, you're going to get a call, and it's going to take a month. They're going to notice that this person's I've seen this icon or this face before, and you stand out. They're going to notice you. And that's a great way for a freelancer to get leads without having to spend money. And it doesn't cost that much of your time, especially if you're contributing real, insightful comments about topics that, of interest. Like, I hate this kind of spam machine, like the automated email or message that you get on LinkedIn where somebody's like, gives you this like 5-page message. First of all, I'm not going to read it. And then, and don't say something personal. And it's like, you're like, oh my God.
The amount of emails and LinkedIn messages I get about, hey, like, I checked out your website, the CEO, whatever, SEO is awful, or your website there is not great. Call me, and it's like, it's a sale. No one likes to be sold to.
Yeah.
But if I see someone like liking stuff, commenting, I start following them, they're talking about best practice, they're talking about this, they're sharing knowledge and things like that. It's just a way better way to do it, because you're giving value and you're not selling, and it's much more effective. Go against the crowd. Everyone's sending sales emails. Don't send another sales email.
Yeah, I agree. I think the sales email is a joke. It's like, oh, I was looking on your website, and everybody knows this is AI. This is a bot. There's nothing personal here. It's like, why? It's almost like throwing, I don't know, data out the window. Obviously, it doesn't cost anything to send a bunch of emails really out, but it's very rare that I respond to any of them, because it's just, for me, it becomes a spam machine. It's like, skip that one, skip that one, skip that one, skip that, delete. And
instead,
whether it's been mass mailed or not,
Instead, make yourself a cup of tea and spend like 10 minutes on LinkedIn LinkedIn's a good professional networking site. So if you're going to go for any, LinkedIn's pretty good. And just find people that you want to build a relationship with and maybe ultimately work with, hopefully. And just comment, like, engage, make friends with, have a relaxed chat, what's going on in the market, whatever. And then you'll find over time things will start to happen.
Yeah. And it's funny too, if somebody takes that approach with me, I'm more likely to, you know, if I am looking for someone, because in a startup, you need stuff all the time. And it's like, oh, hang on, Carl, last week, somebody sent me this message on LinkedIn. It was around 5 o'clock, blah, blah, blah. Let's find that person because they were actually nice to me. You know, they expressed like that they weren't a bot, you know, and I want humans. I mean, I want humans. I don't want bots, you know?
Yeah. Let bots let do human things and make friends with people, make people feel like you're listening to them and, you know, you're sharing stuff. And it's just, it's super effective. And it feels like it might take longer than, right, let me press send. My email's gone to 1,000 people. Wow, that's, you know, but actually you invest time in building relationships with 10 people and it's probably way more effective than just spamming 1,000.
Yeah, no, it is. And if you live in a city where there's events going on that are around business and around, you know, like London is a great example, you know, like there's amazing networks that you can tap into. You know, I go regularly to Andrew Bott's network called Meet Founders. And you can go and you can actually meet the founders who are the decision makers in these younger companies that maybe are just 1, 3, 5, 10 years old, depending on what level they're at, and just say, hey, you know, if you're interested in like any artwork or if you're interested in this or whatever, like here's my card. And I just really fascinated about what your company does. Explain to me more. They'll remember you. And then you follow up and say, it's great meeting you the other day. And then don't stop there. You know, once a month, say, hey, you got 15 minutes for a coffee break. Just want to have a chat. And they'll say, yeah, because they've met you, you know, it's that simple.
Done. What a good place to end. Indy, thank you so much. We've done like 50 minutes now. That's great. I'll take us off the screen and hold on. We can chat after.
Okay.
But thank you everyone for joining. Really good to see you if you're watching live or after or on Spotify or wherever you're watching. Thank you so much. And have an
if
awesome
you're watching us, check out wedo.ai. Just a little plug. And then check out Lewis as well. Add him, do something with him.
Add me, add Indy, check out her platform. Feel free to DM us, not sales message us, but DM
don't
us.
Bot us.
Don't bot us. Yeah.
And don't mind your jiggler. Don't
get the mouse jiggler. Don't get the mouse jiggler. Have a good one, everyone. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.